you feel like you're always up against the wind, it sometimes is because God is trying to push you a different way and fighting it. And Nicole brought up the point, and I think it was Winston Churchill that said it, that any kite needs wind resistance to fly. And so how do you discern between God trying to resist you from doing something to go towards a path that he has better chosen for you versus the test of, are you going to persevere and really catch that wind?
So Tanner, a couple months ago, we did a podcast and we talked about Trump taking over and kind of where things were going. We kind of did our hypothesizing and stuff like that. Not to revisit that, but to talk about, but today we want to kind of talk about building a business in uncertainty. Mm-hmm. So when we're trying to hypothesize what's going to happen and what was going on, we really don't know. So how do you take that uncertainty and grow a business or build a business or start a business? And so that's kind of area I just kind of want to explore, get your thoughts on.
Yeah, I think the first thing that comes to mind is Alex Hormozy talking about basically the premise of how we started this podcast is that no one has any clue what they're doing. We're all just trying different things to figure it out, whether you're running a Fortune 500, Fortune 50 company or a startup. Everyone's just trying to, plug the puzzle pieces in. And I think finding solace in that uncertainty and making your own path, it's when you have the confidence in yourself to just go out and try things, the opportunities are going to be a lot more prevalent.
Yeah, I think it's funny because I just had a conversation with somebody less than an hour ago about this, but he had some personal stuff happen, lost his business. He's been without a paycheck for the last 13 months. Mm-hmm. So he's starting over fresh, and he's like, I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to do that, and then this, but then this gets in the way. And I said, what's stopping you from putting out something today? What's stopping you from marketing today? I was like, you've been doing this for 13 months. What's stopping you from doing this in the next 13 minutes? Like, we get inside our own heads. We worry about, well, this politician did this, or this Republicans, the Democrats, the mayor, the city council, the governor, my boss. Like, we start worrying about everybody else that we have zero control over. And we don't worry about the one person that we can control. I'm pretty sure we used this before, but it was on Bigger Pockets where the guy didn't know how to sell his car. He needed to sell his car. He broke it down in a series of 5-minute tasks. He's like, I know how to wash the outside. So let me go to the car wash and drive through and get a car wash. I know how to vacuum out the car. I know how to go buy a for sale sign. Go buy a for sale sign. I know how to write my phone number on it. Write my phone number. Like, it's literally, we look at it as this macro thing. I need to sell my car. But how do you break it down into its micro parts? Yeah. And that's, I think, where people, they look at the macro picture and get overwhelmed. Yeah. Or they look at the macro and they get scared. And it's just...
Yeah, and I heard something yesterday where they're saying that one thing the wealthy do better than the middle class or lower class is they live in the now. It's like, you can be excited for the future, but if you're living in the future, that's anxiety, because you're always anticipating what's coming next. And that's, so if you're living in the now, it's just your whole life is broken up into segments of now. And what are you going to do in this moment? And what Alex Hormozy was saying is, in order to be a half decent business owner, you just show up when you say you're going to show up, do the best job that you can do, and the rest will take care of itself. And I heard another influencer talking about, when you get to this level of your entrepreneurship where it just starts to get easy, you're hiring people on, you're delegating your tasks, your free time, your free time starts becoming more and more reoccurring. He's like, it's a strange feeling where you step back and like, I don't really know what to do, because for so many years we're used to bootstrapping it and just struggling and worrying about financing. And am I going to lose everything today, or am I going to, have 50,000 in the bank account? It's years of that to then when things just start making sense, you look back and I mean, all it is just a bunch of nows and a bunch of doing what needs to be done in the moment, and that payoff will come. And the most successful business owners, I don't know if you see the School of Hard Knocks guy, goes around asking,
Sometimes.
what
I
do
know
you
you're
do for a
talking about.
living? Yeah. And I mean, there's a car guy too that does it, but the guy, the School of Hard Knocks, he's like 20 years old, goes around asking people when they made their first million, what's the most they made in a year. I watch all of those, and the most consistent answers are glory to God. And I just kept doing the same thing longer than anyone else was willing to stick it out. And I think, in a nutshell, no matter what that is, people talk about the shiny object and specialize versus generalize, and all of that mumbo jumbo aside, if you just keep doing the boring thing consistently, it will pay off.
Yeah, there's a book called, actually, I don't know if I got it up here. It's called The War of Art. Have you read it?
Yep.
So don't get confused with the Art
Art
of
of
War.
Yep.
It's the War of Art, and it talks about resistance. And like, you do one of three things when you hit resistance. You quit, you sabotage, or I forgot the other one was. And it's everybody meets resistance at some point. It's just a matter of, is it $100,000 problem resistance, $1 million, $10 million, $100 million? Like, at some point in your business journey, you're going to meet that resistance that is more than you are capable of handling, at least at that moment in time.
Yeah, I think it's persevere, perish, or not persist. There's 3 P's.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah.
But yeah, it's just very interesting that like everybody reaches that point building a business, and how do you persevere past that? How do you push on through? Like, you're gonna reach a point that you have to muster up the grit.
Well, I want to get your opinion on this, because I just had a conversation with my wife about this not even an hour ago, where I was reading, and I've been much more diligent, since we started this podcast, of reading the Bible every day. And I got the 1 Year Bible with the suggestion of you and Dan. And so just putting these things into practice, and just, it speaks to me in different ways. And one of the things was about when you feel like you're always up against the wind, it sometimes is because God is trying to push you a different way, and fighting it. And Nicole brought up the point, and I think it was Winston Churchill that said it, that any kite needs wind resistance to fly. And so how do you discern between God trying to resist you from doing something to go towards a path that he has better chosen for you, versus the test of, are you going to persevere and really catch that wind?
I don't know if I even have an answer for that one.
It's $1 million question.
I think that's the struggle, is like, I was on a call a few months back with a fairly high level guy. And he had said like 6 months prior to that he felt God calling him to do this. 6 months, 9 months, a year later, whatever it was. That thing that he felt called to do wasn't successful. Like, it was basically at the starting block still. And he's like, well, I don't think I heard the message wrong. I just maybe took the wrong action in the message. So he pivoted. So I don't know if it's that it has to be one or the other. It just might be the wrong application of one.
Yeah, and I think for me, there's 2 things. One is either there's a door slamming on purpose, and God is holding that thing shut so that I, don't, to avoid the danger that I can't foresee. And then the other is, there's something that God's trying to teach me that I haven't figured out yet. And so I always try and backtrack and think about what lesson have I still not learned? Like if money is still an issue, then there's some kind of discipline that I haven't yet learned the lesson on. And he's not giving me the fruit of my efforts until I learn that lesson, because when I'm rewarded, you know, it's the whole idea of people coming out of high school and getting MBA contracts and having millions of dollars, they'll kill themselves with it. Is there something that I still need to figure out before I'm responsible enough for $10 million in my bank account or whatever it is, you know?
Yeah, I just read something in Proverbs this morning about that. It's like Proverbs 12 or 13. I don't remember exactly, but it was 13. But it's talking about like, it's basically the lottery issue. People win the lottery and then they're broke afterwards. And so it says basically the same thing. Like if you're not ready to receive money, you will lose it. But the diligent will be rewarded with wealth.
Yeah.
And I equate it to the lottery, because people win the lottery. They
Lottery's
win
probably a better example than NBA, but
yeah, like they win $10 million in the lottery and poof,
they
it's
buy
gone,
cars,
10
they buy a nice
years later.
house. Exactly, yeah. And then they don't realize they can't keep up with the taxes for that expensive house, and
they're back in a trailer park 10 years later.
Exactly.
So it happens all the time.
More often than not.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very rare that you see a lottery winner turn their life and, you know, have successful businesses.
Yeah, I'd never heard of a lottery winner
I've
taking
heard
their
of one.
Really taking their winnings and building something successful.
Yeah, but they also have a story of blowing the majority of it first and then getting their act together. And, you know, that, I mean, even NBA comes to mind just because I've been watching a lot of Shaquille O'Neal videos. And he talks about when he first got drafted, and the first thing he did was, like, you know, buy his mom a house and then buy, you know, shoes and buy cars and all this stuff. And then after that, you know, his accountant's like, you have no more money. He's like, well, what do you mean I have no more money? Like, I think that's a perfect example. But back to the topic, I mean, I think I'm trying to constantly figure that out. Is God trying to guide me down a different path, or is he testing me to see if I'm worthy of persevering through a tiny road bump to get onto the bigger things? We talked about Ryan Pineda's, if you can't handle a $100,000 problem, then you're not ever going to see a $10 million problem. You're never going to see a $100 million problem. So I think I'm trying to figure that out all the time, because sometimes I feel like people can go down the wrong path for far too long, and then it's the opportunity cost, you know, of what I could have. There's some investments that we've done that I probably would have made more with treasury bonds, but the learning lessons there, it's hard to put a dollar value on that I didn't make that mistake on the next deal. And so the video with Alex Ramosi today that I saw, he was talking about he's never regretted a failure, but he has constantly regretted missed opportunities. And so it's better to do the thing. And he does this exercise of, if I had no fear, what would I do? He said, well, I'd probably do the bigger deal. I'd probably go, you know, a little bit crazier on this, you know, if I had no fear. And I think we need to look at, in our lives, if you were to remove the fear at all, then what would you do? Well, the sky's the limit. I'd go build $100 million, you know, apartment building. But what is it that's stopping me from that? Because that's a ceiling that needs to be broken through.
Yeah. So church on Sunday, had a guest speaker, and he his sermon was basically started off, his daughter was in a spelling bee, and he was helping his daughter get ready for a spelling bee. And so he was talking about Christian spelling. He said the hardest word for Christians to spell is faith. He said faith is spelled R-I-S-K. And then he took like all the walk by faith, or, you know, walk by faith, not by sight, and changed it to you walk by wrist, not by sight. And like he took all those verses, like 10 of them, and changed them all and just added the word risk in. And they all read fine. Like they all made sense.
Yeah.
And,
wow.
So it was interesting exercise. If you
I love those light bulb moments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so how do you take that risk? How do you take that leap of faith? Say I want to start a business today, or in my case, buy a business. Like there's, you turn on any business channel You pull up the Wall Street Journal, like you can't figure out what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Well, there's
the economists don't know what's going on.
and there's companies going belly up left and right that
Well, I
probably
mean, yeah, there's companies going belly up. There's Hyundai just pledged what $20 billion in Louisiana to build a new steel plant yesterday. So there's things going on, like economic growth.
Mm-hmm.
And then over here, you hear economic decline. You listen to economists and they're like, well, this policy is going to do this, and we're going to see inflation here. And then you talk to somebody else and like tariffs aren't inflationary because they're not adding any money surplus. It's just circulating the money that's already in there.
Mm-hmm.
It goes to supply and demand thing, price elasticity.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just like,
Right.
like, who do you believe? Like,
Right.
it's all over the place.
Well, and that's the biggest problem with the internet age is you can find any information to support or deny your point.
Mhm.
And so it's hard to find true unbiased, information. And I think had you asked me 5 years ago, I actually just put a LinkedIn post about this. Had you asked me 5 years ago, I would have say leverage everything, expand the velocity of capital as much as possible, take the bigger risks. And then I had a couple of deals go south that left me hundreds of thousands of dollars in the hole. And I would probably had preferred that I paid off my house first. I probably would have preferred that I had paid off cars first and then taken the big risk, because I think that there is a balance there. The same as we talk about work-life balancing, it's, I think there's balancing to the finances of, yeah, you should take big risks, but also you need to protect your downside. And that's one thing that Warren Buffett has said, that the only thing that he has done better than any other investor in history is take asymmetrical risks. There is still a lot of risk in what he's doing, but his downside is protected. He's never invested, and I'm going to say never, that's not fair to say, but he has very rarely taken an investment opportunity that has limited upside and unlimited downside. Like, all of them have less downside risk than the upside opportunity. And I think whether it's a small business, buying real estate, we're investing in crypto, whatever it is your downside protected? And if you're going to go in and buy a company like plumbing company, what is the worst case thing that could happen? Like, will you lose that investment dollars? Like, sure, maybe they have a lien against some of your personal assets, but you can dig out of those things. You have the, protections in place. There's bankruptcy opportunities. There are things where your family is not going to be homeless if this doesn't succeed. But what is the upside? Well, you could double the value of this company in the next few years just by putting some systems in. So you have a $2 to $4 million upside and maybe a couple $100,000 downside. To me, that's a pretty good bet. And if you're in Vegas, I would play that game all day long. I think where people mess up is they see the bright and shiny potential possibility, or you look at, the MLM theories as they show, oh yeah, this guy, he started Amway. I'm going to throw him under the bus, but he started Amway 20 years ago and now he's making $1 million a month. Like, okay, great. How possible is it that you can get that same opportunity that he did building it over 20 years? Like that, those kinds of opportunities are not there for the late arrivers. So what is the downside risk? I think the best advice that I could give is protect your downside. And for me, it's having everything paid off, maybe in a trust. We're not tax or attorneys, but having everything protected where I can take significant risk in real estate. And if I lose that investment, it's fine. It's just money. But where I'm not willing to take risks anymore is if it affects my family's ability to eat or have a house over their head.
Yeah, it is all about balancing risk and stuff like that. And I used to play a lot of poker, quite a bit, and like for there, like you can watch the poker tournament and you'll see someone take this beat and like, oh, he should have never called. But what that guy's doing is he's calculating the risk. Okay, so I'm getting 3 to 1 to call this, and I got a 50-50 chance of being right. Okay, so my pot odds are better Like I'm getting 33% on my money, but 50% chance chance of winning.
Mhm.
So I mean, 17% of the time, I'll win, and then mathematically, in the long
Do
run,
that enough times.
over the course of time, like I can lose this one,
Mm-hmm.
but if I do it enough times, I will ultimately win. And that's what business is. It's like you're not going to win 100% of the time,
Mm-hmm.
but how can I make a series of small bets, just put enough chips in
Mm-hmm.
that I get the pot odds to be able to win
Right.
overall?
Well, and are you familiar with how venture capital companies, how they set up?
They basically the same
Same thing.
Yeah.
If they invest in 100 companies, maybe 85, 90 of them flop and they lose that entire investment. If they're investing $100,000 in each opportunity, then 80 deals, like that's what, $800 million,
Yeah.
whatever it is. But then they have 3 that do all right. They have another 2 that do significantly well. And then they have 1 or 2 that absolutely blow up and they pay for all the rest of those losses. It's gambling. I mean, it's educated gambling, but I think that no matter what the opportunity is, it's hedging your risk. And if you look at experienced stock traders, that's all they do is they put in stop loss limits. You know, if my stock loses 15%, sell, cut the losses, let the winners ride. That's the magic of the game.
Yeah, when they all go down 15% on the same day.
Yeah.
So
And it's cool seeing my kids now understand that. So my kids, we set up Venmo accounts for them, and we told them, you know, whatever birthday money, yard work, whatever they do to make money, they're not allowed to spend that on stuff. They can't buy things. They can invest that money into a lemonade stand, into a nicer lawnmower, into anything for their business. And then the money that they make from their business, they can buy things. They can buy candy bars and games and whatever else. And so we just started to introduce them to stocks. And so they have little paper wallets, you know, fake money portfolios on their phones. And seeing my son, who bought $10,000 worth of stocks, and he put the time in to look at them, see where they were trending, still doesn't really know much about each company and what they do, but more just sees the trend lines and sees them low. So he'll buy a couple low. And he turned 10,000 into over 15,000 in like 2 months. Like, I almost want to give him 10 grand and be like, go do it. But, and then he had a couple that were just trending downwards. And so I said, all right, what are you going to do? He's like, well, this one I think is going to come back up. So I'm going to double down and buy more of this one. But this one, I don't think it's coming back. So I'm just going to sell that one off. And it's like, all right. He's figuring it out.
what was his logic there? Just kid logic?
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't have any kind of, and this is our son who from like young elementary school, he's 13 now. Elementary school, he'd get an assignment that was to color a picture and he would just put a 1 crayon line. Like everything he does in life can be defined by that. He just minimal effort. So he's not going through saying, I'm going to have this percentage in this stock. He's just like, I feel like buying 100 shares of this.
Flying by the seat of his pants.
Exactly. Yeah. But it's working for him.
Gotcha.
And he's spending the time to read the charts and understand how much he wants to go in that. And he had like 3,000 left in reserves. So he's using that money for when he's looking at a stock and sees, okay, this one's dipping just like I thought it would. Now I'm going to buy. And so he's just, it's cool seeing their minds kind of develop and understand this stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
So yeah, I don't know how to segue now.
But as far as taking risk, I mean, what I think for someone who sees the uncertainty in the economic market, what would be your advice to them to take a risk now or wait it out and see what happens? Think about when it comes to buying an investment property or starting a business or whatever it is.
So I'm not a big fan of waiting. Have you ever like researched dollar cost averaging?
Mm-hmm.
So there's been numerous studies, but people that do what your son's doing.
Well, explain the premise of dollar cost averaging.
So I'll get to that. So basically, what your son's doing is kind of when he has money, he buys it, like based on emotion, if you will. Mm-hmm. Others wait on the sidelines and say, hey, when this big dip comes, then I'll buy. And then there's dollar cost averaging saying every paycheck I get, I will take 10% of my paycheck.
And buy no matter what the share price is.
No matter what the share price is, whether the stock's high or the stock's low, I'm taking 10%. I'll buy what I can and let everything unfold as it will. So no matter where they start in history, given the ample time. I mean, obviously you can do a 6-month time rise, and people can make big swings there. But I don't remember all the time horizons, but I think it was at least 10 years that they've done. Dollar cost averaging is one every time. And it just takes all the risk out. I mean, you still have the risk of stock market, or like the whole market could fall out in like 29, and everything fell out. 08 was another one, but it de-risk a lot of stuff. Obviously, if you turn at 65 and you're looking to retire and the whole market tanks out that 1 year, like, you might not be able to retire, but you can wait 2 years and it'll be back to where it was 2 years prior.
And the same is true in real estate values.
Yeah.
Like the real estate constantly goes through cycles, and you buy in any one time, you make it back by holding on.
Yeah, the only time you lose is if you sell.
And which is the people that you were talking about previously, the ones who try and time the market and they sit on the sidelines. They usually are getting in on a falling knife.
Yeah.
Or when the upswing is already at its peak.
Well, that's the thing is, like, when is the bottom the bottom? And when is the top?
When you can look back and see.
Correct. Everything through the rear view mirror looks perfect. But when you're looking forward, you're trying to predict, you can't. So my philosophy is do what you can when you can. So if you can afford 10% each paycheck, do 10%. If you can afford to start a business, start a business. If you can afford to buy a business, buy a business.
The Automatic Millionaire was the first book that I read on this entrepreneurial journey, and I'm rereading it right now, and it says that exact same thing.
Does it? I don't think I've ever read it.
It's a great story. Quick read. It's a simple read. Good for my underdeveloped mind. But basically the family, that's all they did is they just dollar cost averaged. They allocated a certain percentage of their paycheck, but the whole idea of Automatic Millionaire is they remove their ability to disrupt the system. So they went to their employer and they set up an automatic allotment to go into their stock brokerage account, which you can do. And I did that in my military paycheck too. Before I knew it, I had $5,000 in there, and I was like, that's more than I make a month. And I just kept on doing that, allocating 10%, and it'll snowball, So it's funny, you're talking about the rearview mirror, and you ever seen the Jelly Roll speech for, I think it was the Grammys or something like that? I'll send it to you, but he talks about, there's a reason that the rear view is smaller than the windshield. Like,
that's true.
Yeah.
I'll have to watch it.
But it's good speech. Chills. It's a good one.
But yeah, I think as far as risk, like, I don't know, everybody's risk is different. Like, I've come to a realization that my risk tolerance is probably higher than most. Hence what 5 minutes ago I was saying I used to play a lot of poker. Like, I wasn't making a lot of money, but I was willing to go to the casino and risk it.
But is your blind risk tolerance higher than others, or are you regulating that through your education? Because I feel like you are kind of more on the educated side than just taking blind risks. Like, you're not betting all on red.
I have. I will say I'm probably more educated than others, but where I fail or falter, or however you want to word the thing, is I don't always do everything I know I'm supposed to do, even though I like digging into financials or something. Like, is 90% good enough? Because I don't go 100%. So that's kind of my, Achilles heel, if you will. So I'm more the person, like, I know 80% of it. We use marketing as an example. Like, finishing up my MBA. So obviously I've taken marketing classes. I've read Alex Hormozi's books on marketing. Like, I think the guy's really good at marketing. So I get the theoretical, buy ad, all this stuff, get on the Google page. but the technical, practical, how to do it, when to do it, when to pull this lever, when to let up on this lever, like that's not me. So yes, I do de-risk with a lot of education, but I don't have enough education or practical knowledge to put it all into work. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. And kind of more what I was getting at is the type of, and we're using gambling, is going and just playing slots or just playing, roulette and blindly betting on without a strategy. I don't have that ability. Like I can't just. My wife and I both, we go to the casino. My in-laws are all big casino people. They'll take us to the casino, give us $100, and they'll go in there and be feeding machines, and they win more than I do, but they also lose a lot more, and that's something that I just can't tolerate. Like that $100, I'm like,
so when I was playing poker, like I could go walking around in the under the stairs in the storage room and pull out 10 poker books. So it's all the same thing that I've done with business. I did the same thing when I was playing poker. So I read all the poker books. I broke down with 2 outs, and you have, or with 2 cards left, and you got 2 outs. This is a percentage, and then I started like memorizing all the percentages. So to do the odds and do all the calculations.
Yeah.
So yes.
I think that exactly validates my point. Is that we are more willing to take risks in things that we understand. And when it comes to real estate or business buying or anything like that, if I understand it, then I'm willing to take a risk and my biggest risk is the 20% that I might not know or might not know I don't know. And if I understand 80% of it, I'm willing to take that risk and learn that 20% along the way. But I could never just go and jump into something without having any kind of an understanding about it. Yeah. Like I've tried it plenty of times before. I did the crypto thing. I made a ton of money in crypto and lost it all. So
I'd never gotten into crypto because I felt it was just gambling.
I've never once thought it was a good investment. Yeah. But I saw the pump and dump things, and all the meme coins. That's when I started trying it, and I was like, I'll throw $3,000 in here and whatever, and it turned out really well. But I knew that there was no real weight to it. I was just like, I'm just going to ride this and see what happens.
Yeah, NFTs was another one that.
Yeah. GameStop, all that.
That was like this huge craze, and NFTs, and I don't hear anybody speaking of them anymore.
It's a cool concept, but yeah, it never really stuck. So, but there's probably people who made way more money than me doing those things because they understood it and their risk was deleveraged. So I think that's the most important thing, is to stick to what you know and understand, and you can take a risk on 20%, which is the known unknowns or the unknown unknowns. So.
Yeah, and I think getting back to the general overarching question I started this off with was, you're never going to know everything, I think is the answer. Like, who cares what Trump does? Who cares what Biden does? Who cares what the next president does? All you can do is control what you can control personally, make educated decisions based on what's currently going on. You'll never be correct 100% of the time. And be willing to pivot. I think
that's the biggest thing to take from this is the ultra wealthy. They pay attention to who's in office and their policies and stuff just to pivot.
Yeah. And
depending on where we're at in the market cycle, actually one of our colleagues just posted this thing on LinkedIn about where to invest depending on where you are in the market cycle. And I haven't read through the whole report yet, but it was Jim Sanderson and Stephen Sykes. And to me, that it's just, I had a light bulb moment reading that. And I'm just like, everyone sticks to this one thing and you kind of ride the waves a lot more. But if you are like, when the market's here and the type of asset that you're in starts to kind of decline, you just park that money into the thing that's climbing. And it's the same as stock investing, in my opinion. I mean, once you get up, obviously at an MBA level, commodities, stocks, the real estate, no matter what it is, it's all just different investments.
And it is whether you're trading natural gas or you're trading wheat or steel or houses or whatever, it's just it's a different asset. They're all very similar.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
people have made money on it all. I haven't looked into it, but oil and gas right now is pretty hot.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Selling futures of that. And
Yeah, I had a buddy that I was like, hey, how's the real estate going? He's like, oh, I've got so many flips going on right now. I'm trying to get them done so I can buy more oil. I'm like, what? Oil? So I started looking into it. I think to sum the whole thing up, you can't ever know 100%. I mean, even when it's the person who thinks they know 100% is the one who's next to get burned. But can you make a decision with 80%? Typically, yes.
No.
And I think that's true. Obviously, Dan Martell, even in delegation, it's like 80% done by someone else is 100% freaking awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. I mean,
so I'm reading a book right now, and it's a finance book. It's talking about kind of the news, and whoever makes the most noise, like if everything's going right, the person yelling to the left is going to get all the attention. Like, oh, everything's going to burn down over here. So that's where people are going to go. They had a snippet. I wish I wanted to bring it for this conversation. I should have. It was from 2010, and it said by like June or July, like the whole world's going to collapse. Like Alaska is going to be part of Russia. California is going to be part of China. DC area is going to be part of Europe. And like they had broken the United States up into 5 different pieces, and they're all Canada was going to own like the middle part of, and then Mexico was going to own Texas and some surrounding areas.
And it's just Nebraska in the middle.
Yeah. So, but they divided us all up, and this was like legit published in the Wall Street Journal. Like this wasn't even like some far-off magazine or the Atlantic, or I don't know how serious the Atlantic is, but it was not a mainstream, or it was a mainstream publication.
Right.
And here we are 15 years later. It couldn't be any further from the truth.
Yeah.
So
we should do that sometimes. Go back and look at the .com news articles and see what came to fruition.
Yeah, it's just. But this article got all kinds of publicity in 2010, 2009, whatever it was, whenever it came out. It was projected by mid 2010. So it's whoever has the loudest mouth, it says the most disruptive thing. Like I said, if everything's going right and this person's yelling from the left, this destructive thing, that's what's going to happen. Or that's what people are going to focus on.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of false prophets too, claiming they know when the end of the world's coming and all that. So
yeah, and that's what this is false prophecy. Like it's just on an economic level or a social level or social economic.
And when I saw another one, I think it was actually a Life Church sermon, and he was talking about just anxiety. Anxiety should be your trigger to pray. It's like anytime you're anxious about going to school today, pray. Like you're anxious about a business decision, pray. And the more you make that standard practice, the less control anxiety is going to have over your life.
Yeah, I mean, I always tell my kids, because I feel like one thing society and school and everything is, they had this whatever the emoji book or movie. It was the Inside Out.
Yeah.
So like everything's emotions, everything's feelings, everything's, and so.
Oh, my wife hated that movie.
Does she? But they're like, my 11-year-old's like, oh, she was running late for soccer. She's like, oh, I'm anxious. I'm like, why? Like, we'll get there. Well, we might be a couple minutes late. And like, does it matter? Like, why are you being anxious about something that you have zero control over? And like, so I'm trying to teach her this. I'm like, if you're anxious, you're worried about the future. If you're depressed, you're worried about the past. Like, I understand there's people with clinical depression, and that's an outlier to what I'm talking about. But most, and the same thing with anxiety, there's people that, just have some kind of whatever. But for most of us, when we say I'm depressed or I'm anxious, like it's our feelings that we are making up, and it's something that we want more than what is factual.
Yeah. The serenity prayer.
So, yeah.
Grant me the serenity to understand the things that I cannot change, the things I can, and
to know the things I can, and the wisdom to
know the difference.
Know the difference.
Yeah, I think that's something that it's a good reminder to bring back more frequently, because how many of the things that we dwell on, whether it's past or future, can just be broken down to what's within your control or not.
Yeah. Well, anything else to end on?
No, I think that's a wrap.
Cool.